stone sweats around you. The arena above exhales its last roar. Torches gutter to embers. Then in the labyrinth under Rome, boots begin counting the seconds to your door. They're slow, deliberate. The walk of men who know the key already fits. Overhead is Rome's public mask, marble applause, deaths choreographed on bright sand. Down here is the afterlife of that spectacle, the Hypogeum, a honeycomb of corridors, lifts, beast cages, and small chambers with doors that only lock from the outside. The condemned were damnati, given over. The conquered were captivi, the taken. In the ledgers of power they were res, things. A thing does not plead. It is stored, tallied, moved. The air tastes of iron and oil, old leather, wet rope, pitch. You can measure the place by sound. Winches complaining where animal platforms rose, runoff whispering through drains, a gate bar kissing stone. Somewhere a handler laughs, somewhere a soldier coughs. Above, citizens are already retelling the afternoon's best killing stroke. Below, clerks are already doing the math. What follows the games is not rumor dressed as outrage. It is procedure. The same bureaucracy that counted spears and panthers counted bodies by origin, age, condition, assignment. When a gladiator survived and excelled, Rome paid him in careful rations of hope. Bonus grain, prize money, the distant promise of the wooden sword, and something more primitive, parceled like equipment, access. Modern scholars stitched a name for it, Victoria Carnalis, the carnal victory. Romans never coined the term. Why name what passes for normal? Here is our claim, and how we will defend it. From texts that speak too glibly, Martial praising the arena's efficiency, Juvenal sneering through clenched teeth, Seneca letting the mask slip, and texts that speak too carefully, Dio's bland, chambers for those awaiting their use. From architecture that refuses innocence, cells with stone benches at telling heights, iron rings sunk at floor, waist and shoulder, jams burnished where keys turned 1,000 nights. From logistics, only an empire affords. Commentarienses logging property, columns of numbers beside labels Germanica, Britannica, Parthica. On the sand Rome taught daylight who ruled. In the chambers beneath, it demonstrated what rule meant when the crowd went home. The footsteps stop. Metal answers metal. A guard says nothing. He doesn't have to. A man in sand-streaked bronzes, celebrity above, asset below, raises 2 fingers to indicate a cell. No verdict is read. Verdicts are for persons. Here procedure is enough. This is the chapter Rome left off the inscriptions. We will read it from stone, statute, and habit. How spectacle required a systematized hidden afterlife. How damnati and captivi were turned into inventory. How a victorious sword could claim a prize the law did not recognize as human. Once you learn to hear the Hypogeum, you will never walk the Colosseum as a tourist again. Ledgers came first, then chains. When a province fell or a revolt was stamped flat, Rome did not simply win, it processed. The ritual began where the last standards toppled. A census of the conquered under military guard, the quick triage that turned lives into categories. Men of fighting age were separated for 2 fates, damnati in metallum, condemned to the mines, or the arena's pipeline. Children were sorted for sale. Women of childbearing age were tagged captivi, state prizes, and added to the transport lists. Within hours, the language changed, and with it, the law. Under Ius Gentium, a captive could be treated as res, a thing. Things do not appeal. Things are moved. The erasure was clerical before it was physical. Commentarienses, the record keepers, opened their wax tablets and began the arithmetic of empire. Names, if recorded at all, slip behind descriptors. Germanica Vigintianorum, bona valetudo, ad amphitheatrum, Iudaea cum infante, Britannica, cicatrix in maxilla. Numbers replaced faces, lots replaced families, columns aligned. The entries migrated from tablet to papyrus, from a centurion's chest to a provincial archive, from there to the tabularium that fed allocations across Italy and the great cities. Inventory is not cruelty, it is control. That was the point. From these lists flowed logistics. A convoy's manifest determined how many maniples of soldiers guarded it, which way stations would feed it, which contractors provided carts and chains. The same bureaucracy that quantified grain shipments to Rome quantified human bodies by origin and use. Damnati ad bestias to the amphitheater scheduler, in metallum to mine overseers in Sardinia or Dalmatia. Skilled captives diverted to elite households, unskilled routed to bulk sales. Rome's strength was not improvisation, it was repeatable procedure. The paperwork dictated architecture. Beneath arenas, those small rooms with rings set at multiple heights fit smoothly into the flowchart. Arrival, inspection, assignment, storage, use. In barracks and ludi, administrators cross-referenced two living inventories: the gladiators, assets that fought, and the captives, assets that soothed, punished, rewarded. After festivals, a clerk could tell you how many beasts were lost, how many swords needed re-riveting, how many captivi remained available. The words are anti-aseptic. That is their violence. Law sealed the system. The slave's capitis deminutio, reduction of legal status, made assaults non-crimes because res cannot be wronged. If a captive became pregnant, the child's status followed the womb. Property again, another line in another ledger. If a captive died, her disappearance appeared as a marginal note. Death, and the numbers reconciled at month's end. Even mercy was administrative. A magistrate's manumissio created a new entry, not a redemptive story. None of this required a monster on the throne. It required clerks who closed columns, quartermasters who hit delivery dates, and an empire that believed the world was raw material. The games were the loud face of domination. The quiet face was a bureaucracy that made human beings interchangeable with cargo, scheduled, costed, and consumed on time. The arena was not a hobby, it was a ministry. Rome called it ludus and munera, the language of gifts. But the Colosseum's true patron was state power. You entered under arches carved with imperial names and learned, before a single trumpet sounded, the lesson the regime paid to repeat. Rome owns the hours of your day and the terms of your death. Bread fixed the stomach. The games fixed the imagination. They naturalized hierarchy, dramatized conquest, and rehearsed obedience in 50,000 throats at once. The program's spine was politics staged as ritual. Mourning, hunts and displays of global dominion, Nubian leopards, bears from the Alps, crocodiles ferried up from the Nile. Noon, the Meridiani, the Midday men, when the elite slipped away to dine, and the crowd was fed something coarser, condemned bodies. Here the pretense of contest fell away. As Seneca wrote with cold fury after slipping into a noon show, there was no helmet, no shield, just naked murder, cruelty unmasked as entertainment. His disgust marks him as an outlier. His letter survives precisely because most spectators did not flinch. By afternoon, the choreography turned theatrical and theological at once. Fabulae legitimae, the fatal charades. Myth was reenacted with real blood so that story and empire fused. Orpheus entered with a lyre. A bear answered the melody. Daedalus flew. A hidden pulley failed. The fall was authentic. A woman dressed as Pasiphae met a bull beneath a wooden cow. Marshall reports the staging with a reviewer's wink, praising the producer's ingenuity as if describing a banquet. That blasé tone is the point. In Martial's epigrams, the line between artifice and atrocity has been made fashionable. Whatever myth told, he quips, the arena made real. The state could not ask for a clearer endorsement. The crowd learned its cues. Pity became an error of taste. Cheers arrived on schedule. A wooden sword, the rudis, meant a man was freed. A bent wrist meant a throat was opened. Children absorbed the grammar of gesture, the syntax of command. The sand taught Romans to see flesh as a prop, foreigners as fauna, criminals as script, women as set pieces. When a Germanic chieftain grappled a catapult-launched cat, it proved the empire could throw even nature at its enemies and expect applause. This was intimidation, streamlined. The damnati ad bestias were not only punished, they were converted into messages aimed downward, at subject peoples, and inward, at citizens tempted to dissent. The emperor appeared, thumb poised, not merely as a man judging men, but as a living icon of sovereignty. To witness that gesture, and to shout with it, was to rehearse complicity. Beneath the varnish of spectacle lay a feedback loop of power. Conquest supplied victims. Victims staged conquest. The staging legitimized more conquest. If the morning displayed Rome's reach and the afternoon displayed Rome's right, then the evening, gladiators fighting as trained assets, displayed Rome's management of violence. By the time the benches emptied, the lesson had settled. In this city, life and death are curated events, and you are lucky to leave by the sunlit exits. They lived at the bottom of the law and the top of the billboards. A gladiator was service, property in chains, branded by a lanista, and at the same time, a face scratched into Pompeian plaster with hearts around it. The walls tell on Rome. One graffito calls Celedus suspirium puellarum, the girls sigh. Another crowns crescens, glory of the ladies. Matrons slipped rings into veils and bribes into guard hands. Poets muttered about patrician beds smelling of the barracks. Apothecaries even sold sudor gladiatorum, gladiator sweat mixed with oil, as an aphrodisiac or beauty aid. It's grotesque and entirely Roman. Enslaved men whose perspiration could be bottled and their bones broken on command. The paradox made administrators nervous. Gladiators were trained killers, concentrated in dormitories, fed high-calorie barley rations, drilled under weapons masters, and handled as investments. Rome never forgot 73 to 71 BCE, when 78 men with kitchen knives turned into Spartacus's army and embarrassed legions for 2 years. The answer, after the crucifixions lined along the Appian Way, was control by system, discipline, spectacle, incentive. Discipline meant the ludus as a factory. The regimen was monastic in routine and carceral in punishment. Wooden swords till wrists burned, sand yard drills, medical care that treated men as assets to be amortized, shackles and whips when needed. Spectacle meant converting that violence into scheduled profit, so the fighter became a predictable component in the imperial calendar, a commodity with a fight record, a style, a fan base. Incentive was the tightrope. The ladder started low, extra bread and better oil, then a cut of the sportula, prize purse, then privileges, lighter chains, a seat at the training table, a new Parma or Gallia. The apex was the rudis, a wooden sword presented in the arena that meant legal freedom and an annuity of honor gigs as trainer or referee. Most never reached it. Some who did kept fighting anyway because fame is a subtler set of chains. And in certain contexts, especially during imperial or senatorial munera, swollen with propaganda budgets, the latter included access that Rome refused to name out loud: women from the state's Conquest inventory. The sources are coy, but the pattern glints through. Administrators speak of premia, rewards, epigraphs of privilegia victories, satirists of nocturnal traffic between cells and barracks. It fits the mathematics of mastery. The stipend was finite. The state's human spoils were not. Granting the victor's privilege cost the treasury nothing and signaled to fighter and spectator alike that the empire's right of conquest could be miniaturized and reenacted after the crowd went home. Everything about the gladiator's celebrity was engineered to vent pressure without loosening bolts. Let him be adored, on plaster, in perfume jars, in whispers, but never autonomous. Keep him superbly fed and perpetually owned. Surround him with physicians, but not philosophers. Let him taste the emperor's favor in a palm branch or a woman he did not choose, yet remind him that the same hand can turn polis verso and erase him to silence. Rome's genius was not merely to train killers. It was to domesticate an eruption, to keep a volcano burning inside a stone-walled gymnasium, glowing just enough to light the empire's favorite show, and never enough to set the city on fire again. Romans told on themselves, but rarely in a single tidy sentence. Our trail runs through poets, satirists, moralists, historians, and law. Martial, epigrams, treats the arena's cruelties with restaurant review nonchalance. Lunchtime executions as myth come true. Prisoners costumed as Orpheus or Pasiphae and then annihilated. Evidence for a state that staged bodies as props. Juvenile satires, rages that patrician women haunt the gladiator barracks and trade favors for access, revealing both the sexual economy around fighters and Rome's appetite to sexualize violence. Seneca, letters on anger, recoils from the Meridiani, the midday slaughter line, calling it naked butchery that degrades spectators. Cassius Dio notes amphitheater, chambers for those awaiting their use, a bureaucrat's phrase for human inventory. Josephus, Jewish War, describes post-conquest sorting, men for mines or the arena, youths sold, women distributed to victors. Policy, not accident. The legal lens is colder. Enslaved and conquered persons slide into the category res, things, administered through ledgers kept by a commentarienses. Labels like Germanica, Britannica, Iudaea appear in property lists and sale notices across the empire. In that framework, granting a gladiator privileges of the victor, privilegia victoris, didn't require erotic vocabulary. It was simply the allocation of state property for reward. Military practice points the same way. After major campaigns, Roman armies issued premia to soldiers, cash, rations, portions of booty, access to captives. The arena, funded as a public munus, borrowed army logistics and its reward logic. Why then no explicit line, Gladiator X was given woman Y? Because Romans seldom spell out what they regard as banal. They didn't name the plumbing either. The sources assume a reader who knows how conquest works. Captives flow where the state directs. Rewards are dispensed where the state wishes prestige. When Martial praises the arena for making myth real, the compliment hinges on an infrastructure that can make bodies available on demand. Archaeology adds shape, not a transcript. Across amphitheaters, we find hypogeum sectors with small cells, locking doors, wall rings at varied heights, stone benches. They are clearly holding spaces within a movement network for people and animals. Do these rooms by themselves prove carnal victory? No. They prove that humans were warehoused beneath the stage, and handled with repeatable procedures, paired with texts on captive processing, with Juvenal's barracks traffic, with Josephus's distribution language. The pattern tightens. So here is our evidentiary standard. Certain. Rome classified captives as property. Arenas warehoused humans. The games normalized lethal and sexualized spectacle. Elites and gladiators intersected in a transactional sexual economy. Post-conquest distributions included women, highly likely by convergence. After headline victories or lavish munera, select gladiators received access to female captives as part of a rewards ladder administered by amphitheater staff, recorded only as generic premia or privilegia. Speculative, exact frequency, selection rituals, and individual case lists. Rome's paperwork rarely itemizes the obscene. We will proceed with that hierarchy, cite the lines we have, show the rooms that exist, and, where Rome's studied indifference leaves gaps, reconstruct practices only when multiple streams, law, logistics, literature, point to the same door that locks from the outside. Walk with me under the sand. First come the arteries, long corridors laid in herringbone brick, lit by oil niches, broad enough for a cart or an elephant to turn with a handler's shout. You pass capstans and windlasses where crews once hauled ropes. You see the squared shafts of lifts, wooden platforms that shot animals and set pieces to stage level through trapdoors cut with geometric precision. Along the flanks, beast cages with heavy jams, bite-scored bars and scuppers to hose away filth. This part of the Hypogeum is pure engineering. Movement, timing, spectacle on schedule. Then the plan changes. You enter the other zone, a run of small chambers, 10 to 15 square meters, cut off from the cargo flow. Their doors are thick, iron-banded, and crucially locked from the outside. Inside, continuous stone benches run hip-high along the walls. Not work tables, not feed troughs, but human-height perches. Set into the masonry are iron rings at 3 bands. Near the floor, around the waist, and at shoulder level. At many rings, the stone is polished into ovals, wear marks where metal met tension over and over. In several rooms, the plaster is scarred with scratch lines that do not align with tool use or animal gnawing. They cluster near the door and benches. We can map these rooms across the empire. At Capua, beneath the amphitheater that birthed Spartacus's revolt, archaeologists documented compact cells with bench and ring arrangements and exterior bolt doors. The Pompeii amphitheater, simpler than Rome's, shows analogous service rooms with human-scaled fittings rather than stole dimensions, plus graffiti layers that testify to captive presence. In the Colosseum, whose understage, largely Domitianic, is a lattice of corridors and elevators, reconstructions and surviving fabric reveal sectors intentionally separated from animal traffic, narrow access, secured doors, fixed rings at repeat heights, and no drainage architecture consistent with stabling. Could these be for animals? The dimensions argue no. Big cats and larger ungulates require deeper stalls, claw-smoothing wear near lower courses, and abundant slurry channels. These cells lack that plumbing and bear ring placements at human restraint heights, not halter lines. Could they be gear rooms? Storage wants shelves, pegs, and open access, not exterior bolting doors and restraint hardware. Could they be workshops? Workshops leave heat scars, soot lenses, tool racks, and bench cuts for fabrication. Here we see smooth seating slabs, not vices or mortises. What they do align with is repeatable custody of people. Exterior locks make sense only if the person inside is not meant to operate the door. Triplicate ring bands allow multiple restraint postures, standing, kneeling, seated, consistent with holding, punishing, or presenting human bodies rather than tethering hooves. Bench height matches a human thigh, not a fodder line. The wear polish at ring level tells of ropes or chains pulled taut hundreds of times. It is the archaeology of routine. Blueprints are ideology set in stone. The Hypogeum's main grid is a machine for timing astonishment. Lifts, cages, queues. These other rooms are a machine for control. Hold, sort, deliver. When texts speak in euphemisms, those awaiting their use, privileges of the victor. These walls drop the pretense. The understage was not only a backstage, it was a carceral architecture, designed so that when the crowd went home, doors that lock from the outside could keep the system running on schedule. The roar fades to a dusty hush. Trumpets sound the missio. Attendants rake the sand flat. A boy sprinkles saffron water to sweeten the blood smell. The victor, still bandaged with wool and clotted grit, drinks from a ladle, gets a dab of oil at the unctorium, and is handed not laurel, but an escort. Two Ludus officials appear, the Lanista's aide, who manages fighters, and a commentarienses, the record keeper. They carry what matters after dark, a ring of iron keys, a bundle of wax tablets, and a wooden seal box. This is not improvisation. It is procedure. They lead him down the service corridor, past capstans and lift shafts, into the understage office where logistics live. Shelves of tablets, a chest of tesserae, tokens, and a trestle table stained with lamp smoke. The editor Muneris, the day's sponsor, has already signed off the prize list with a quick stroke. The dispensator, treasurer, has marked purse awards. The schedule clerk, who set the afternoon venaziones, now flips to an allocatio page that reads like an inventory. Captive, Colosseum Sector 4, Germanica 19, Britannica 22, Iudaea 31. No names, just origins and numbers. The commentarienses recites the rubric with the boredom of a man tallying amphorae. Victor, 1 allocation under privilegia victoris. He checks the tessera against the wax tablet, presses a seal, and slides a sliver of ivory across the table. It is the same motion used to issue a net to a hunter or a spear to a stagehand. Tools, bodies, entries in a ledger. They walk. The keys ring once, twice, as doors that lock from the outside open on the other rooms. The small cells with stone benches at thigh height and rings set at floor, waist, and shoulder. A guard, one of the same men who wrangled leopards at noon, waits with a lamp and a scowl. The clerk reads a number, not a person. Iudaea 31. The guard turns the right key from habit. The door gives. The figure inside is brought forward or the victor is sent in. Either way, the administration continues on rails. There is no proclamation, no ritual phrase, only the choreography of custody. A tally mark scratched on wax, a seal pressed in clay, the door relocked from the outside. The clerk notes duration, same line where he noted how many ostriches the venatores went through at midday. When the keys return, he wipes the stylus flat and closes the tablet with a thong. Elsewhere, the dispensator files the purse, issues extra grain, sportula, to the victor's barracks, schedules the medicus to reopen stitches in the morning. The night porter snuffs lamps in order. Corridor, office, cells. Every motion is mapped by habit. That is the shock. Nothing in this sequence looks like a crime. It looks like work. the same bureaucracy that timed trapdoors, ordered panthers, and set the water wagon's schedule. The very men who placed a bear at the right hatch at noon place a woman at the right door at dusk. In Rome's machine, horror is not an event. It is a task, assigned, recorded, and completed on time. A stylus doesn't shout. It whispers through limestone. Down in the Hypogeum, the loudest testimony isn't a speech or a decree. It's a fingertip of iron that worried a line into stone and refused to let it heal. What the ledgers reduced to Germanica 19 or Iudaea 31, the walls stubbornly re-expand into people. Epigraphy, the reading of inscriptions, teaches humility first. These marks are fragmentary, often shallow, sometimes garbled by non-native Latin. They're jumbled among tally cuts, masons' layout lines, and bored soldiers' doodles. We cannot lift a single scratch and declare, this proves a policy. But taken together, place, pattern, and phrasing, they humanize a population that paperwork erased. Start with letter forms and context. In several amphitheaters, Capua, Pompeii, and galleries beneath major arenas, investigators have logged small cell-side texts at shoulder height, incised with a nail or stylus rather than painted like street graffiti. The Latin is crude, consonants doubled or dropped, verbs maimed. A typical line runs like a breath held too long. Ego, Emilia, ex-brig, gantes, vidi liberos, nec, nunc, nihil sum. I, Emilia, from the brig, gantes. I saw my children killed. Now I am nothing. Letters wobble. G turns into C and becomes N, the handwriting of fear and second languages. Elsewhere, a Celtic phrase clings to the wall like lichen, rendered in Latin letters but foreign to Roman ears, translated by specialists as, to any god who will hear, let me go before tomorrow. On another block, domum carved 3 times, home, each attempt deeper, as if repetition could open a door. Not every mark is a prayer. There are numbers cut in neat columns, 12, 13, 15, that look like shifts tallied or days endured. A scratched fish, ichthys, hints at an early believer. A crude palm branch sits beside a name. Most haunting are scrape fields, patches where fingertips or shackled wrists worried the wall into a soft blur, the human equivalent of pacing. What can this prove? Epigraphy can secure presence. Someone stood here with time and intent. Suggest status, cell adjacency, exterior locks, rings nearby, and reveal voice. The words Romans didn't write down for them. It cannot certify a nightly schedule or assign a policy to a particular emperor. Stones are stubborn, not omniscient, yet convergence matters. These inscriptions appear where the architecture already points to captivity. Small rooms with benches at a consistent height, iron rings at floor, not waist, shoulder, doors that lock from the outside. The phrasing, origin ethnonyms, pleas to unnamed gods, the grammar of loss, matches the categories in state lists, Germanica, Britannica, Iudaea, and the tools, nail, stylus, shackled metal, match what the building housed. Roman chroniclers named editors, counted panthers, praised engineering. They did not preserve the voices of the warehoused. The walls did. Epigraphy won't give us a courtroom confession. It gives us something rarer in systems of dehumanization, self-utterance, a shard of grammar, an origin half-remembered, a mother's impossible sentence. Paper called them res things, stone answers with persons, one scratch at a time. Rome did not blush at blood. It blushed at bad optics. That more than any speech about virtue explains why a state that could stage rapes as myth and crucifixions as spectacle suddenly drew a bright line when women stepped into the sand with weapons. Enter the Gladiatrices, female fighters whose very existence tore at Rome's self-image. The satirist Juvenal sneers his way through the phenomenon. Aristocratic women sweating in the palaestra, learning the sword, faces hidden under helmets. His venom isn't chivalry, it's class panic and gender scorn. Women bearing arms invert Rome's hierarchy. The spectator's gaze loses control. The joke lands on the audience. A century later, Cassius Dio gives us the policy turn. Under Septimius Severus, after games where women fought, a ban comes down. No more female combats. Note the pretext. Not tenderness, not reform, but decorum. The emperor, a master of propaganda, smelled risk. A female body on the killing floor turned the arena from imperial theater to bawdy carnival. The crowd didn't watch with the solemn awe reserved for male gladiators and state killing. They jeered, sexualized, and laughed. The ritual that disciplined the citizenry slipped toward farce. For a regime that needed the games as sacra, public rights of power, this was intolerable. Here is the clarity the sources force on us. Rome wasn't disturbed by violence, only by the wrong kind of spectacle in the wrong place. Killing condemned men at noon? Fine. Turning a prisoner into a myth and making the death literal? Fine. Warehousing war captives below and distributing them as privileges after hours? Invisible, therefore fine. But women with blades under the lights? Visible, gendered, unpredictable, made the machine cough. Not because women must be spared, but because the audience misbehaved. The crowd's laughter dented the state's mask. So Severus trims the program. The band doesn't dismantle the Hypogeum. It tidies the surface. It tells us how the system protects itself by shunting the most awkward violence back underground. The cruelty continues, but it returns to corridors where keys click and ledgers balance. Moral panic becomes aesthetic management. Juvenal's lines, Dio's notice, the architectural facts we've traced. Together, they map Rome's public limits. The empire will tolerate anything so long as it reads as order. The editor's gesture, the ritual weapons check, the silence before the kill. What it cannot abide is a mirror held up to its own appetites. A moment when the crowd giggles and the right looks obscene rather than sacred. When that happens, emperors legislate not mercy, but discretion. This is the lesson of the Gladiatrix. Not that Rome softened, but that it curated. The arena remains a pulpit. The message must stay clear. Power prefers its ugliest work off stage. Call her what the ledger will. Germanica, age roughly 20. Good teeth, sound limbs. Before the line item, there was a village that chose badly. Resistance instead of tribute. The legion came at dawn. Standard procedure. Men of fighting age cut down or chained for the mines. Elders and boys sorted. Houses fired to smoke out the hidden. She saw the palisade fall, the standard rise, the cohort move like a hinge through the street. By noon, the survivors were property in motion. Processing began in the field. A junior officer dictated to a commentarienses, the record keeper, tally, origin, condition. Captivi, not citizens. Res, not persons. The words did more than classify. They converted. Once written, she lived under different physics. A blow was not assault, but use. A sale was not family separation, but transfer of assets. She would never again be named in law. She would be referred. The column moved south in chains, iron biting bone, pace kept by whips and water rations. At way stations, the convoy met buyers. Dealers for the eastern markets tugged at hair, checked hips. A contractor for quarry gangs chalked shoulders of the strongest. She was diverted to public stock, state claim. tagged for metropolitan spectacle rather than provincial sale. The tag was a small ceramic token threaded on cord, stamped with a mark and a number, GERI-47. At an urban depot, the system tightened. She was stripped, scrubbed, inspected, penned. Inventory language hummed around her, assessed, allotted, dispatched. She learned its grammar by pain. When she begged a guard, he laughed. Not cruelly, precisely, explaining that you cannot wrong a thing. Roman law's trap closed with elegance. As res, she could not be injured. As res publica, she could not even destroy herself without committing furtum, theft, from the state. If she succeeded, her corpse would be used anyway. Transport to the amphitheater was a wagon under canvas, the air sour with old blood and wet rope. The first shock was sound, the roar above, amplified by stone. Metal gates barking open and shut, the wooden machinery groaning as lifts rose animals into light. Smell made a layer over everything. Pitch, sweat, lamp smoke, cat urine from the cages. Down there, day was a rumor. The corridor turned, narrowed, turned again. Doors with locks on the outside. Some walls were incised with scratches. Names mangled by a hand that learned Latin letters too late. Her number was copied into a new book kept by arena staff, the same hands that scheduled venationes and midday executions. She learned other words by context. Damnati ad bestias, those reserved for beasts. Meridiani, the noon killings when crowds ate. Subministry, runners who fetched, fed, cleaned. She was not assigned to the sand. She was assigned to the after, the hours when applause thinned and keys mattered more than swords. Understand the strategy humming beneath this machinery. Rome did not merely win battles, it broke time. It ensured that defiance today meant humiliation tomorrow, and that everyone knew. The journey from rebellion to Hypogeum was itself a theater. A message carried along roads and retold in markets. Resist, and your daughters become entries. Your prayers become scratches. Your name becomes origin plus number. At night, the crowd's noise receded to a pulse. Footsteps replaced it, measured administrative. Somewhere a steward checked tallies. Somewhere a key turned. In a system this polished, the worst horror is not madness, but routine. The Empire's most efficient weapon was not the sword. It was the sentence that began, item, female, captiva. The cross did not flip a switch in the Hypogeum. It dimmed the lights upstairs. In the 4th century, the Empire baptized itself in stages. Constantine's patronage, the Edict of Milan, 313, tolerating Christianity. Later Theodosius III, 391 to 392, outlawing public pagan rites. Senators traded sacrificial altars for churches. Bishops replaced augurs in the civic front row. But slavery remained a pillar of law. The legal fiction that a captive could be treated as res, a thing, survived the baptismal font. Christian emperors issued pious edicts. The ledgers kept counting. Gladiatorial combat did not end with Constantine. It limped on as a prestige expense and a municipal obligation, increasingly awkward in a Christian moral vocabulary, but stubborn in urban expectation. The story that crystallizes the turning point is the monk Telemachus, who, according to a later ecclesiastical historian, entered an arena, commonly dated to 404, to halt the fight, and was killed by the crowd. Emperor Honorius then banned gladiatorial Monera in Rome. The tale is sermon-ready and probably simplified. The sources are late and embroidered. But the legislative result is real enough. After 404, state-sanctioned gladiator versus gladiator spectacle ebbs toward extinction in the West. Notice the verb ebbs, not vanishes. Animal hunts, venaciones, persist longer. Provincial arenas still stage blood. And even as the sand sees fewer duels, the machinery we have traced, capture, transport, inventory, sexual coercion, does not vanish with a single edict. It migrates. Christian Rome still fights wars. War still makes captives. The law still furnishes masters with power over enslaved bodies, policed by bishops in rhetoric more often than in court. Garrison towns and frontier depots replace some amphitheater functions. Private households, military camps, and urban brothels absorb the after-hours logic the arena once concentrated. City prefects now quote scripture, then sign receipts. A new moral language overlays an old administrative grammar. Meanwhile, the buildings change costumes. The Colosseum's fabric frays. Earthquakes crack arcades. The Hypogeum silts. Workshops, hermit cells, and later chapels colonize the corridors. Stone rings and exterior locking doors outlast the shows they served. Across the West, amphitheaters become quarries, fortresses, housing. Infrastructure has a long memory. It persists until economics, not ethics, force a repurposing. By the 5th century, the imperial tax spine that funded spectacles weakens. Gothic and Vandal shocks interrupt supply chains. City councils can no longer afford grand shows, even if they wish to. The practice we are tracking does not end because Rome grows a conscience. It fades because Rome loses the surplus to industrialize cruelty at scale. In the East, Byzantium, slavery, captive-taking, and sexual predation remain woven into war and household. Regulated, admonished, euphemized, but legal. When tourists climb the Colosseum today, guides recite Honorius and Telemachus and nod toward the end of the games. Fair. But the more unsettling coda is this. The show stopped. The system did not. The spectacle stage died with the empire's revenues. The script, that the conquered body is a usable object, continued in other venues for centuries. If there is any moral progress in this story, it comes late, partial, and fragile. The stones below kept their rings long after the hymns began above. Two sounds, a key turning, and a voice choosing not to hear it. That is the distance between postcard Rome and record Rome. We finish where we began, beneath the sand. In the half-light of the Hypogeum, the iron ring is still there, sunk into masonry that outlived emperors, bishops, earthquakes, and selfie sticks. The corridor breathes cool and damp. The steps are uneven from centuries of boots, sandals, and tour groups. If you crouch, really crouch, you see what the brochures don't frame. Exterior lock scars on door jambs, bench heights that make no sense for storage, nail holes in repeating patterns. The stones are not poetic. They simply keep accounts longer than the archives do. Up in the sun, Rome sells wonder. Arches gilded by evening light, travertine glowing, tales of ingenious elevators that lifted leopards into day. That Rome is true. But the lower Rome, the one that pairs Marshall's glib reviews of lunchtime executions with Seneca's tight-throated contempt for the crowd, the one where Juvenal sneers at women lusting after fighters, where Cassius Dio narrates the emperor's embarrassment at female gladiators, where Josephus catalogues the funneled misery after Judea burns, that Rome is true as well. Read the texts in one hand and touch the stone with the other. They agree more than we want. Our argument through these chapters has been ruthless in its simplicity. The arena's other half was policy, not aberration. Conquest furnished bodies. Law renamed them res. Administrators inventoried them. Spectacle trained the eye to accept them as props. Reward systems, food, coin, the rudis, and access kept dangerous celebrities obedient. The Hypogeum distributed the consequences with the same calm that timed a Venatio. When later Christian edicts dimmed the shows, the infrastructure lingered and the logic migrated to barracks, to households, to border towns, fading only when the empire's surplus failed. Beauty rode on industrialized horror. Rome could pave a road straight to the horizon and, with equal competence, pave over a person. So what do we do with that? Tourism is not the enemy. Amnesia is. If you stand on the arena floor, don't just imagine the roar. Imagine the silence after it. Walk the oval with Seneca's letter about moral corrosion in mind. Descend with Martial's breezy couplets in your ear. Let Dio and Juvenal shame you a little. Remember that Josephus wrote as a survivor under imperial gaze. The point is not to flatten Rome into a cartoon of cruelty. The point is to refuse Rome's own PR that cruelty was an exception, a bad emperor's whim, a colorful footnote. The Hypogeum says otherwise. When we call a thing ancient, we often mean safely distant. The stones refuse that comfort. They accuse, not because they moralize, but because they fit too well with the ledgers and the literature. If you leave this series with anything, let it be the habit of asking, under every monument, what system fed this? Not just in Rome. Next time we follow that question east, into amphitheaters on the frontier and the paperwork of captivity in provincial towns, where the empire's margins show us how center and periphery taught each other to disappear people in plain sight.